Hey, it's Coach Sarah, and welcome to Range of Change, the podcast where we dive into the pivotal moments of transformation that shape our lives. If you're looking for inspiration, insights, and real talk about navigating change, big or small, you found the right place. I'm an ICF certified coach and a seasoned change manager with 2 decades of experience helping people and organizations thrive through life's hairy moments. Whether you're choosing to make a bold leap into a new chapter of your life, or life is choosing it for you, this community will explore how to not just survive, but thrive through change. Think of this podcast as your guide to becoming more resilient, more empowered, and ready to take on your next big change with confidence.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to introduce you to my audience. This is Jason and Daravy, and they asked the question, what if retirement wasn't the finish line at this long race that sucks the soul out of you, but instead it was more of a creative leap? So Jason and Daravy are 2 amazing people who designed the life that they wanted and set out to make it a reality. Retiring in their 30s, they now split their time between the US and Southeast Asia, and they're going to talk to us today about how they made this change and how they made it a reality. Thank you guys so much for joining me.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Sarah.
I've been watching your YouTube videos, both on finance and on travel, and I'm really impressed with all of the knowledge that you guys have in these 2 areas of your passion. Talk to me a little bit about, I think to start just at like a 10,000 foot view, the FIRE movement, the lean FIRE movement, and how you came to embrace this.
Sure. So I think most people by now have heard of FIRE, but just in case they haven't, FIRE is basically a combination of 2 different things. You have the FI, which is the financial independence, then the RE, which is retire early. So basically what FIRE is to me, it's having the financial means to where you don't have to work anymore if you don't want to. So for me, FIRE is basically where you have enough financial resources coming in to cover your monthly expenses, your annual expenses. And once you reach that point, you can choose to work if you still want to, but you don't necessarily have to.
That's amazing. I have a friend who is trying to leave corporate America, and she said to me, I can keep working here, and some people might even think I'm rich, but I don't own my time. So I am still a slave. It doesn't matter how much money you've coming in. You're only truly independent when you are making all of the decisions about your time.
Right. And there's 2 parts to that equation. There's the outcome and the income. If people don't cut their expenses down, if they're making $1 million a year, but they're spending $1.5 million, they're still that time slave.
Exactly. And I'm so curious about that, because you 2 each started this journey independently before you met and got married. And to me, it sounds like a tremendous amount of discipline to get your expenses down in order to save your nest egg up, and then something you'll have to, manage for the rest of your life. So I'm curious to hear from each of you how you made this decision to take a less traditional path in life.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely takes some sacrifice. For me, I was inspired by a couple things. Number one, Anthony Bourdain. Back in the day, I loved seeing him travel, interacting with people, and just his overall life experience. He wasn't doing everything that everybody else was doing. And around that time, I was also inspired by a lot of different YouTubers who started becoming more popular online. And these were young people who were out traveling, making money online, living life on their terms. They weren't working the 9 to 5 in an office like most everybody. And I just knew that I wanted that. I didn't know how I was going to do that at that time, but I knew that's what I wanted. And I think the third thing at that time was I read a book by Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek, which I think also most people have heard of. And that's all about lifestyle design. It's not about just going with, just being a leaf blowing in the wind, just going where the wind takes you. It's about making a conscious decision about creating the kind of life that you want to live and figuring out a way to do that. So that's what started my journey.
Mine is a little bit different, because where I'm from, Cambodia, is we don't have the social security to fall on. So I was starting since I don't know, I don't remember exactly when, but it's kind of like I have to have aggressive saving so that I have, when I'm old, I have enough, or I don't want one day, if I lose a job, what's next, you know? I have to have something to fall back on. So I start aggressive saving. And for most people think that you have to have a high salary or six figures. For me, I start with $120 a month, and that's how I grew up and step up. And that money put into investments, so that I can start rolling with that money, and whatever happen in the future, I have like the investments that I can depend on, like self-independence, and I have to be focused on that goal. And then later on in life, when I start, I went to Australia. That's when I pick up how I like traveling. I see the different countries, and I like it, you know. And that's how the travel and finance independence coming to my mind. And I start going out to different countries from years to years. And finally, I met Jason's, like someone who had the same mindset.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I think of investing as very intimidating, especially if you're not earning a gazillion dollars a year. I know a lot of my family members are just like, you know, they don't get it. So I'm curious how you got into, you know, investing, and if that's a passion that you developed on your own, or is that part of your job?
Back in Cambodia, still nowadays, a lot of people like to do the real estate flip, like they flip sale, and they make the money out of it, and they keep rolling. I didn't have that, but I put my money, because we don't have the stocks like here. Like they didn't have it until the last 5 years or so. But what we had is the called a fixed term deposit, so that it has the high interest, so that I could totally almost like depend on that interest without spending the salary that I got from my job. So that's how I keep investing and rolling the money and making out of that. That's how the investment I focus on. But most of the people I knew back in Cambodia, like they do the investment in terms of like the real estate. So that's different things too. So yeah, that's the investment that I was referring to and talking about.
Yeah, and as far as for me, I've always been frugal and a saver. I don't know about like an investor, but I was always saving ever since like I was a teenager, as a kid, even since my first job. And I totally get it why some people are so overwhelmed, at least in this country, with investing, because there's so many options, and most of them are designed to be confusing. They want you to be dependent on that financial advisor. Susie Ormans wants you to buy her book. They want you to stay poor, so you keep buying their products. So we develop our philosophy is just keep it simple. We invest primarily in index funds, mostly DTI, total index fund. So we're not buying just individual stocks. That's the bulk of our investments. Obviously, our house is our real estate investment. And then, yeah, we'll dabble a little bit in precious metals or a little bit of crypto, but nothing crazy, you know, a few percentage points of our overall net worth. But yeah, I mean, I totally get people's, you know, fear and misunderstanding of, you know, the investment world.
Yeah, you know, it's such a good point about investment funds, not to go down a rabbit hole, but I remember when I first learned that index funds outperform, you know, like the most highly compensated advisors almost all the time. Like it's such an eye-opening moment that you don't have to spend all this money and you don't have to rely on fancy titles, that like most people can take control of this because those tools exist. You just have to like have that little bit of knowledge to unlock it.
Right.
Wow. So that's awesome. You guys were both frugal. So I'm guessing this wasn't a huge leap from the time you made the decision, but I am curious, you know, day in, day out, year in, year out, there's a lot of sacrifice involved. I'm curious what the biggest surprise or reflection or eye-opening moment was for you.
In regards to
just committing to the FIRE lifestyle during those years when you were accumulating and not yet retiring.
For me, it wasn't a surprise or anything revolutionary. You know, it just came natural to me. For a good stretch there, I was saving probably 70% of my income for probably at least 10 years. That includes, in, paying extra on my mortgage. It just came natural to me. Well, all my friends were going out to dinner for $50, $100, or some people were having kids and then going to Disney for a week and they spend, $4,000 or $5,000 for a week vacation. It's like, that stuff didn't make sense to me. People would go out and buy brand new cars. That wasn't me either. I have a car. My family's always bought cars and driven them until they die. So, I mean, there was nothing, like I said, surprising to me. It's just, I guess, how I was raised.
Yeah, and it's similar to me where I grew up. I'm not from like a middle class family. I'm just like, I grew up poor as well, and that's how I really focus on the saving. So that's how I grew up my whole life, and even nowadays it doesn't surprise me as much because we have to make sure that we have the emergency fund and what we can we have a like called the rainy day, like you can always come back to. So even back in Cambodia, like when I go to work, I have a car, but I don't drive it as much. I drove the motorbike to work. That save a lot of gasoline, easy parking. And I focus more on like not on the brand. A lot of people like, okay, their car, they want to keep up with the model and they want to buy it. I said, I don't drive that much. It's not worth it. And they have the purses and the brand name. And I said, I'd rather have $1,000 in my purse than $1,000 purse that have no money in there. So that's always coming to my mind when I come into that. So it's not a surprise for me. So yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like this was well aligned to your values. It wasn't a huge leap. It was really just finding a lifestyle that already worked for frugality and a desire to travel and to take a less beaten path, like the Anthony Bourdains of the world.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You just took the word out of my mouth. It's values. It comes down to what's important to you. If you want that new car, fine, great. Go get it. No problem. But just know what you're sacrificing to get that car. You could be giving up years of freedom. And if that's your choice, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has different values. So,
yeah, it's, I think so many of us, you said like a leaf blowing in the wind earlier, and whether or not you realize it, I feel like a lot of people get caught up in that, go with the flow, do what everyone else does, keep up with the Joneses, where you laid out a plan with the end goal in mind and just stayed eyes on the prize.
Exactly. Yeah.
Neat. So I'm really curious what a day in the life looks like for very young retirees, whether you're in the US or you're on one of your adventures abroad.
Yeah. So like you just mentioned, there's two parts to that. There's the US life and then there's travel life, and they're very, very different.
Yeah.
You want to explain?
Yeah, for me, it's because we are in the US, most of the time it's in summer. From spring, summer, and then we get out here in winter, of course. And that's where I enjoy a lot of my life in the gardening. Like most of the day, I'm going out there and growing my own herbs and starting my garden. And we go to concerts, and we start to get to like going to the sport, like go to basketball game, hockey games, and we enjoy that. But at the same time, in Asia, our day is totally different. Like you don't know what today's like until you go out and see things. Oh, we have different countries that we go to, the top of the list where we want to visit, but day to day is so different. Like sometimes we want to go to point A, and then along the way we see totally different things, unexpected, as you can probably see in our travel. So that's always more exciting, going to eat different food, the local food. And here I cook a lot at home. And because of healthy food, and also like it's too expensive to eat out anyway. And I cook a lot of Asian dishes, and where I have my herbs garden. So that's so convenient for me.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, other things we like to do when we're here in the US, we do a lot of biking, we do hiking, get some nice state parks around us. Like you said, all the towns around us, they have free concerts all summer long. So there's no shortage of like live music to go see.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed at the amount of free tickets you can find on Facebook Marketplace. We probably went to 10 Indiana Pacers games this year for free. Because there's just so many people giving away tickets. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, when we're traveling, like she said, every day is different. You know, we tend to wing it most of the time.
Mm.
We might have some general ideas, some things we want to see, but we usually figure it out once we're there. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of it's not pre-planned.
Uh-huh.
So
You cannot pre-plan basically.
no, when you travel for 2 weeks, a month, maybe you can, you know, set an itinerary. But when you're going for 4 to 5 months, there's no way you can plan that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and the beautiful thing about Asia is it's so cheap, so easy to get around from one city or one country to another that it allows for that. You don't have to pre-book hotels for the most part, maybe around major holidays, but other than that, not really. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can imagine that it's different.
Sounds so idyllic.
Yeah,
So-
and go back to the cooking part. Like you said, we eat out 99% of the time when we're overseas.
Yeah.
But when we're at home, we eat at home 99% of the time. Like we never go out to eat here. You know, well, $100 dinner here is like 3 days of living over there. So it's like we can't justify that. So that's one of the sacrifices that we make.
It really puts it in perspective, though. So when you're there, you will sort of decide how long you're going to stay in a place, like in the moment, and which countries you're going to go to. Do you have a rough outline, or is it really just you live in the moment and you make those decisions?
It just depends. It depends on where we're going. For example, if we're going to Cambodia, a lot of times we're limited by visas, either her visa or my visa. She has a Cambodian passport right now. I have a U.S. passport. So if we're going to, let's say, Cambodia, I can only stay for 30 days and I have to leave. So we'll maximize our time there. We'll spend the full 30 days because her family's there. So we spend time with them. Now, if we go to like Taiwan, she can only stay for, was it 2 weeks, 14 days?
Only 14 days. Yeah.
So we'll stay 14 days in Taiwan. So, I mean, things like that we'll know. But for example, Thailand, each of us gets, what is it, 60 days now? 60 days on arrival. We'll go there with the intention of, okay, we can stay 60 days if we want to, but if whatever reason we want to leave early, we will. So it just depends on where we're going.
And most of the time, like we can all, like some places depends on the air quality. It depends like how we feel. Like a couple times we felt sick, and then okay, we can go to somewhere else. You know, that defines.
Yeah, in Asia, air quality is a big problem. It's really poor most of the time. So like this past time we went to Thailand and the air quality got bad earlier than it usually does. So we left Thailand earlier. So, yeah.
So we buy a lot of the time. We have the time frame that we want to stick with, and then if something happened, okay, we change it quite easily.
Oh, that's so nice. I was thinking of a trip I took a couple years ago around to just like national parks here in the US. And because of the wildfires, the air quality was so bad that I wanted to leave. But to your point, it's so complicated. Everything's planned in advance. You risk losing so much money.
Yep.
It's just so funny.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. You mentioned visas, which was something I hadn't thought about. And I also am curious about like language. Do you ever run into language barriers, or do you have to hire guides, or is it fairly easy to orient in your experience?
Of course, there's language barriers at times, but for the most part, tourism in Asia is very simple. I mean, people are so open and welcoming and generally want to help you. So if there ever is that language barrier, you know, they want to help you, like I said. We use Google Translate at times when we need to, so that's very helpful. But for the most part, if you stick to the cities, most of the people under 40 speak at least some level of English. So it's not a major concern. Thailand, for example, is very simple. Most people speak English. Philippines, everybody speaks English. Malaysia too, it's all English.
And Cambodia and Vietnam, like they speak English. Even the tuk-tuk driver, like take you around, they speak English.
Everybody knows enough basic stuff.
And we one time we met a Japanese woman, like we were trying to figure out at a bus stop where to our hotel from the train station, and she went beyond her way out. She said, she need to look at the address and find which stops, and she even and she sit next to us.
Yeah, in the bus, we made sure we got off the right place.
Yeah. It was so helpful. Like when you travel, you meet a lot of amazing local people.
Yeah, and the majority of like food menus over there, you know, people are wondering, how am I going to eat when I get there? The majority of food menus have pictures. So
yeah.
so they're
That's
used
very
to
cool.
tourists way more than here in the US.
Yep.
Yeah, I did notice that in one of your videos, like you're sort of scanning and people are saying, hello, hello, hello. Like they're just so friendly and
Yeah.
wanted to be a part of your video and your conversation. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's so nice. Yeah, you can definitely see the joy in your videos, which I really appreciate as someone who loves to travel but has not made it to these countries that you're describing. It just gets me very excited and energized to see that
Well, you
warm
need to
welcome.
go.
Yeah.
I need to go. Whew, do I ever? So I am going to ask a question that I associate with retirement, and it might not apply to early retirement or you guys at all, but just that question of identity. In the US especially, so much of who you are is associated with your job. People immediately, when they meet you, say, you know, what do you do? Not anything about who you really are. And I'm curious if making this transition impacted your identity, your sense of self, how you introduce yourself to people in the US when they ask what you do.
Not really. I mean, my sense of identity, you know, that's changed. You know, I was the same then as I am now.
Mhm.
But to your point, yeah, people always want to know, what do you do? And everywhere you go, it's the first question people ask you. So fortunately, I still have an online affiliate marketing business that I started before I fired. That doesn't bring in a ton of money, but at least it's still something I can say, this is my job. This is what I do. People always ask, how do you travel? You know, what's your job? I'm like, well, I work for myself. You know, I do online marketing. I can work from anywhere in the world. And all of a sudden it makes sense to them. Like that just totally answers their question. So
Yeah. And for me is like I start from a 9-to-5 job and then switch to here. And it's so hard for me as well to get to like, okay, you work for YouTube, like working on that. And what is it?
yeah, we're starting to tell people now that we're doing
Yeah.
the YouTube thing because it's kind of new to us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that.
I don't know if a lot of people still get that, especially the older people. They think you're making videos, like they don't know you can make money from that eventually.
Right.
So
So yeah.
Nice. So what do you guys think that most people misunderstand about lean fire, about retiring early, being financially independent?
yeah, it's an interesting question. So I made a Reddit thread the other day that kind of blew up a little bit about our situation and, you know, how we pulled this off and our budget and all that. And some of the haters on there, the biggest things are, you know, you must be destitute. You must live in a box under a bridge. Like, there's no way you can do this. You're one, you know, medical emergency away from being bankrupt. You know, you're too young. Your money's not going to last. So there's all these fears that people have, and their life is guided by fear, one thing or another. And a lot of that's due to the news. They watch, whether it's Fox, CNN, no matter what it is. Everything's fear, fear, fear. Be afraid of something. Something's going to get you. You're going to die. Don't go here. Don't do this. You know, just stay home and work. Okay. Well, number one, for the financial part of it, our investment should continue to outpace inflation and our spend. And our spend is so low that our investments should continue to grow. That's happened for the past 8 years since we actually pulled the plug. And Nest Egg continues to grow despite our lifestyle. As far as like the medical concern, that could happen whether you're working or not. You know, you're one medical emergency away from bankruptcy, no matter what. You know, I don't have a mortgage over my head to worry about. I don't have car payments to worry about. These are the same people telling me to be worried.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, if I die tomorrow, at least I will have lived my life the way I wanted to. You know, these people are probably going to work till they're 65, 72, and they're going to die within 5 years. Sure, they'll die with a lot of money, but they didn't get the chance to live their life. So our house is standard suburban house, 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths, 1,700 square feet, nice suburb outside of Indianapolis. So no, we're not living under a bridge.
And our neighborhood is really safe. And when I just moved here, I was so shocked, like, oh, we forgot to close the garage door. And I thought, oh, it wouldn't happen in Cambodia. Yeah, someone bring to your house. But it's so safe in here. And it's not like we're living under the bridge like most people have thought about us. Yeah.
So I mean, these people, there's risk to everything you do. You know, no matter what decision you choose, there's a risk. And this is the risk that we choose to take. We're smart about it. It's calculated risk. So, you know, I'm confident that we'll be just fine.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously it's like a fear-based projection that people are launching at you. And, you can fear having wasted your life, having not really lived, dying prematurely, like you mentioned. I think in the US, we're very programmed to fear anything that involves us not working. I'm
Exactly.
curious, Daravi, do you have a different perspective? I don't know what the sort of value system is growing up in Cambodia, but do you think people embrace this lifestyle more there? Do you receive the
Yes, they
same sort of
do.
feedback?
Hmm.
Hmm.
They do, like, because what I'm living now is not like really what people think of, like, compare. They don't compare like the luxuries in terms of, okay, it depends on how you value. Like, if you travel, like that, oh, wow, most of people back in Cambodia like cannot like travel freely easily because the visa, like we have the weakest passport, so that's part of it. Um but most people back home, I mean, like, they have different kind of value. Like, some, like, the society thinks like you have to have a luxury car and everything, so that's part of it. So it's balanced out. It's not like a really so much different from here, but it's kind of like, okay, if you have the money, you buy the jewelry and stuff, and getting out and get recognized. But I don't, this is not my value, so I don't mind. I'd rather ignore that sounds, but the rest is fine. But people like really, okay, if you retire that early, the same thought here about the fear, what if you felt sick, that's the only things that people are concerned about.
Yeah, and I can tell you when I'm in Asia, other than the other tourists that I meet, nobody asks me what I do for work. The locals never ask me.
It's so telling.
Uh-huh.
I mean, they know you're working, but they don't care like what your job is. That's not your identity over there.
Mhm. They want to
Yeah.
get to know you, like, where are
Yeah.
you from, and telling about the story. Why are you here? Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, it's such a it's just so unfortunate that we don't value experience, and especially novelty of experience. The amount of new things that you guys see and do and taste, like, some would argue that is the very point of life, but the
Yeah.
people aren't going to be arguing it on Reddit, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's good in a way because a lot of people over there don't have good work ethic. So a lot of them
Mm.
remain poor,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So you got to find the balance, Yes, you got to work hard, but you got to have a reason to work, and you should save it and invest it, in my opinion, not waste it on material things. But yeah, you got to find life too, life outside of work.
Yeah.
That's the problem Americans struggle with, is the balance.
Absolutely. So to wrap up, I did want to point out that you guys have this amazing YouTube channel that people can check out. They can follow your adventures. They can learn more about your perspective on investing. And I will share that link. I highly recommend that people check it out. It's very well done. And I'm
Thank you.
wondering, yeah,
There's
if
actually two
maybe,
channels, but I'm sure you'll link them
yes, it
both.
is two different channels. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
One very finance, one very travel.
Yeah.
I think they're both great. I lean towards the travel one, but
Yeah, we'd love to keep them together, but the algorithm wouldn't like that very much. So
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's like the FI and the RE.
mhm.
But I'm curious what you would recommend if someone is, curious, they want to learn more, they're interested in designing a life like you guys have made for yourselves. Where should they begin?
Well, just go back to YouTube. If not our channel, there's plenty of others, talking about this stuff, living the life. We're not the only ones, that's for sure.
Yeah.
There were a lot of channels that inspired us, inspired me for sure, both on the financial and the travel part of it. Check out the book by Tim Ferriss, 4 Hour Work Week, and Reddit's another great resource. There's all kinds of subreddits for fire. You have fire, there's lean fire, fat fire, chubby fire, barista fire, coast fire. There's financial independence. These are all different subreddits. So there's plenty of information out there, plenty of people chasing the same dreams, the same goal, on the same path.
Yeah. So, and I think one of the things that they can start thinking is what do they value at? Because we don't want them to go out the way to be like us and then realize, oh, you shouldn't follow. But is that what you really want?
Yeah, people need to look internally too. What's your values?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what they are, go after them. If it's a
Mm-hmm.
new car, fine, go after it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever your values are, go after them.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to change them, you can change them anytime you want. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you don't have to sacrifice anything to live someone else's dream just to live your own dream. You have to live your own dream in your own pace.
Yeah, this lifestyle is not for everybody, that's for sure.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people who would hate doing what we do.
I love that. I love the direction that, just don't be a leaf blowing in the wind. Whatever it is you want, look inside, figure that out, and go after it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's amazing. You guys are very inspirational. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation. I've learned a lot, and I very much look forward to continuing to watch your adventures.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. That's a wrap on my conversation about early retirement. Big thanks to Jason and Daravy for sharing their story. And what an inspirational story it is. Two people who are genuinely living according to their core values, taking the difficult path to live a different sort of life. They're not following the same playbook that so many are. They're making their own reality. And what a beautiful reality it looks like. I'm really impressed. And they're taking the time to make a lot of videos and share them and help others on this journey. As a change coach, I really have to ask each and every one of you, if you were to examine your values and your life and how closely they're aligned, what might you find? And if you were willing to throw the playbook out and make a bold move to live a little bit more honestly, a little more aligned, what would that look like? I hope that this conversation inspired you. I know it inspired me. And if that's the case, I hope that you will like and subscribe and follow and do all the things to show all that internet love. And until we meet again, genuinely, I hope that you are taking the time to think about what you want most in life and pursue it, regardless of what that change might look like. If you need help, you know where to find it. We are a coach and a community that is always here to help. Until next time, I'm Coach Sarah, and this is Range of Change.